So you're thinking about the Škoda Slavia. It's a sharp-looking sedan, and it really puts safety front and center. But with all the different engines, trims, and gearboxes, figuring out which one to get can be a real headache. Well, that's what we're here for. This guide is all about cutting through that confusion and giving you a straight, logical path to finding the perfect Slavia for you. Let's get into it.
Right off the bat, the most important thing to get about the Slavia is its core identity. We're talking about a 5-star global NCAP safety rating. That's not just some bullet point on a brochure, it's the very foundation of this car, making it one of the safest family sedans you can buy in India.
And that's where things can get a little tricky, right? The sheer amount of choice is great, but it can also be pretty overwhelming. So our entire goal here is to break all that down and help you pinpoint the single best option that actually fits your driving style and your needs.
Here's how we're going to do it. We've got 6 parts. First, we'll get a handle on the mechanical choices. Then, we'll hunt down the best value for your money. After that, we'll get into the fun stuff. How to really drive the 1.0 manual, how it handles Indian roads, and what it's like to own long-term. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a clear verdict.
All right, let's dive right in with the first, and honestly, the most important decision you're going to make. That's the engine and gearbox. This combo really sets the whole personality of the car you'll be driving.
So, you've got 2 engines to pick from. On one side, there's the 1.0 TSI. It's a peppy 3-cylinder turbo that's really tuned for great city driving and good fuel efficiency. On the other side, you have the 1.5 TSI. That's a bigger 4-cylinder turbo, and it's all about raw performance. So the choice is pretty clear. Do you want a balanced, practical daily driver or a high-performance machine?
And then, you have to pair those engines with a gearbox. The manual gives you that classic connected feel. You're in total control, it's a simpler piece of machinery, and that usually means lower costs down the road. The DSG automatic, on the other hand, is lightning fast. The acceleration is fantastic, but it does come with a higher price tag and, a bit more complexity under the hood.
Okay, so once you've kind of settled on an engine and gearbox, the next puzzle is the trim levels. This is where we can really zero in on the smartest, most value-packed option in the whole Slavia family.
Now listen up, because this is probably the most important takeaway from our source. Paying more for a higher trim does not make the car safer, and it does not change the fundamental engineering. The chassis, the safety cage, the core mechanics, they are exactly the same whether you buy the base model or the top-end one.
So you're probably asking, what am I paying extra for then? Well, it's mostly the creature comforts and the bling. Things like a sunroof, powered seats, some extra chrome bits, and fancier materials inside. They're definitely nice to have for sure, but they don't change how the car drives or how it protects you in a crash.
And because of that logic, there is a clear winner when it comes to pure value. It's the 1.0 TSI signature with the manual transmission. Why? Because it gives you the exact same world-class safety and solid engineering as the most expensive models, but without you having to pay for all the cosmetic extras.
So if we're focusing on that best value variant, let's talk about how to get the absolute most out of it. This isn't about which car to buy anymore, it's about how you drive the 1.0 TSI manual to get the best performance and honestly, the most fun out of it.
The secret to this engine is all about the RPMs. It's a turbo, so it really comes alive in the mid-range. You want to keep it in its sweet spot. For just zipping around with great response, that's between 2,200 and 4,500 RPM. But if you want maximum acceleration, you want to push it a bit higher, into that 3,000 to 5,200 RPM range.
Now let's talk gears. Think of them as tools for specific jobs. Second gear is perfect for those quick bursts you need in city traffic. Fourth is your friend for highway overtakes. But look at third gear. That is your hero. It's the primary overtaking gear, giving you that perfect mix of power and flexibility. As for fifth and sixth, they're your cruising gears, for saving fuel on the highway.
And this brings us to the golden rule for overtaking safely. Please, don't just floor the accelerator in a high gear. That's not how this engine works. The proper way is a simple 3-step process. First, downshift into the right gear, usually third or fourth. Second, get those RPMs up into the power band, above 3,000, and then you accelerate decisively to complete the move.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room for a lot of buyers. How does a 1.0-liter engine handle tough Indian driving conditions? We're talking about climbing hills, navigating ghats, especially with a car full of people and luggage.
There is one rule, one golden rule you absolutely have to follow. When you're climbing, never, ever let the RPMs drop below 2,000. That's the magic number where the turbo is working properly. If you go below that, you're just straining the engine and putting a ton of stress on your clutch.
So this means you got to avoid a few common mistakes. Don't try to lug the engine up a hill in too high a gear. Don't slip the clutch to try and build speed. That's a recipe for disaster. Always downshift and let the engine do the work. Oh, and a little pro tip, on really steep climbs, just ease up on the AC a bit to reduce the load.
And hey, what goes up must come down, right? The rule for going downhill is just as simple. Use the same gear to go down as you would have used to climb up. This is called engine braking. It lets the engine control your speed, which saves your brakes from getting dangerously hot and gives you way more control.
Okay, let's shift gears a little and talk about the practical stuff, the day-to-day of living with a Slavia. We're talking fuel, mileage, and just general long-term care. First up, E20 petrol. You're seeing it everywhere now. So what does it actually mean for your car? Well, it's pretty simple. E20 is petrol with up to 20% ethanol blended in. And because ethanol has a little less energy packed into it than petrol, you can expect your real-world mileage to drop by a small amount, maybe 2 to 6%. It's not a problem with the car, it's just the science of the fuel itself. Now, if you want to get the best possible mileage, here are a few easy wins. On the highway, try to keep a steady speed, somewhere between 80 and 100 kilometers per hour. Set your AC between 23 and 25 degrees. That's its most efficient range. Make sure your tires are always at the right pressure, and, maybe clean out that junk from your boot. Little things really do add up. So, there you have it. We've looked at the engines, we've found the best value, and we've talked about how to drive it and live with it in the real world. Now let's tie this all together and land on a final, clear verdict. Your decision really comes down to one of these two paths. You go with the 1.0 TSI manual if your priorities are long-term value, mechanical simplicity, and you actually enjoy the skill of driving. Or you choose the 1.5 TSI DSG if what you crave is pure, unadulterated performance, and you're okay with the higher cost and complexity that comes with it. And that leaves us with one final question, a question that only you can answer. When you really think about it, for your own needs, is the absolute thrill of maximum performance worth the extra price and the added complexity? Your answer to that question will tell you exactly which Škoda Slavia is the right one for you.